One of my favorite things about running She's4Sports is that I get to hear the stories of inspiring women in sport, like my next guest, Steph Dykstra. She's the co-owner of Iron Lion Training, and she joins me now. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So I am just inspired by, your path to owning your own gym. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got into the health and fitness industry?
Well, I started off in finance, it seems like many, many lifetimes ago. And I came to a point where I've always been very active and I always loved martial arts. And I came to a point in both my martial arts career and my financial career where I had to make a decision and go all in with one of them. And to my family's dismay,
they're like, what?
I went with martial arts because at the time, it was around 2012, women were starting to be in the Olympics for boxing. So prior to 2012, there were no women boxing in the Olympics, and that's something that blew my mind. And that's not to say I wanted to go to the Olympics to box, but that just opened up a lot of opportunities for learning and just getting information on how to be better. And that's just something I wanted to do because, like with finances and education, you can do that you can continue to do that all your life. But with sport, you only have so much time. So I wanted to seize the opportunity and just go for it.
And you did seize the opportunity.
I did.
Taekwondo black belt.
Yeah.
You had built yourself a amateur boxing career. Tell me a little bit about that and what have you taken from that experience to pouring into your gym that you run right now?
Well, doing those sports really showed me where the gaps were for women in terms of learning and support. So I've always had this fixation on martial arts. I've always loved martial arts. I have family in the States, and my parents would send me away to Brooklyn, and they would have kung fu movies on, and I was always like, wow, this is awesome. I want to be and the way people responded to me wanting to do that, oh, you can't do that. You're a girl. You're this, you're that. I was always something that I couldn't be a martial artist. So that made me more interested in being a martial artist. So like you said, Taekwondo, I started there. I did some Kung Fu. I did some Muay Thai. And then boxing became a thing that blew up. So I was like, let's do this. So when I started boxing, it was just a different freedom. It was like an environment where you can completely let go as a powerful person and nobody tells you you're too much of anything. So to me, that was very therapeutic because even in finance, I had to kind of put myself in a box. I had to straighten my hair. If I let my natural hair out, people things to say. Networking was always awkward. I'm generally an awkward person. So martial arts was a place that I really felt whole when I got the support. So it didn't start off that way. It got that way. But just the act of doing martial arts made me feel whole.
And your nickname is Iron Lioness.
Yes.
Tell me where that came from. I love it. It sounds so strong.
So when I decided to go all in, I was old enough and smart enough to know that I needed help. And I think that's something that, when you're an athlete, sometimes athletes tend to focus on their own performance, but you really need a solid team. So I had an excellent mentor at the time who basically told me how to get the resources that I need to be able to do it full time. And it started with getting sponsors. So as an amateur athlete, I kind of broke barriers there because a lot of amateur athletes don't get sponsorship, but I did from a few companies by creating a brand that was bigger than myself. So the Iron Lioness movement is, if you think of lionesses, they do things together and they're powerful when they're together. So just the idea of an athlete that has this backing of really strong women.
Squad.
Yeah. And it's it makes the endeavors less scary because it is a terrifying adventure, but to have those women that you can go back to and talk to that are older and wiser and can help you kind of see that the obstacles are opportunities and not reasons to quit and help you get the resources you need, that became the Iron Lioness movement, which was a movement to help empower women and children. And those are kind of the groups that I feel in health and wellness get overlooked.
talking about those groups, sometimes I can only speak from my own experience as a Black woman being in the Black community, there's sometimes not the access to those resources, or maybe the conversations are not being had within your own family, based on my experience, on mental health. So, what are some of the things that some of your clients or the women and girls that you help, what are some of the things that they're telling you, and how are you helping them sort of, access those resources, or use health and wellness as a way to get through some of the mental illness issues that they have?
Right. So the first thing is to understand that I'm there to help. So I do know a lot of things about health and fitness, but it's not my role to shove all my knowledge that I know down people's throat. So just listen to see what it is that they need help with. Sometimes it's just somebody to listen. Sometimes it's collaboration, which I think is missing a lot from coaching. So like a lot of the coaching that I got was very male dominant, and like as a woman in her early 30s, you can't train me like a teenage boy, which was the case, right? So even to talk about biological things that are different with women, how their training has to, like, so by listening to women when you train them, if they say something's bothering them, it's not really you're weak and you can't do it. You need to work harder. The answer is not always work harder. The answer is to find something that's sustainable for the person in front of you to do. And when we find an obstacle, how do we provide a resource? And sometimes the obstacle is just eating more protein, getting more sleep, reducing stress. But sometimes it is talking to somebody that might be outside of my scope of practice, that I have a network to
like a referral. Yes.
Yeah, so we do refer out if it's something that is missing from the piece that is going to help people reach their goals.
I want to go back to you building Iron Lion Training as a co-founder. Again, as a Black woman, tell me a little bit about that journey into launching your own business, and were there any hurdles or challenges that you faced, and sort of how was that journey?
I'm laughing because it was extremely difficult. I'm gonna say, as a Black woman, I had to fight to fight. So I had to fight to get the resources. I went through bad coaching. So I went through a period where I was with a coach who didn't really understand my potential or understand me. And I was lucky enough to have a mentor that like kind of laid it out, like, this team isn't working for you. You need to find another team. So even like those growing pains of finding the right coach that understood your potential, that understands how to train you, how to motivate you, that was really challenging. Being older was very challenging. So I was, like I mentioned, I was in my early 30s. Most of the people that I was going up against were in their early 20s. So there's that 10-year gap there as well. And so I think those were the biggest stumbling, is just getting what I needed and having people understand the type of athlete they were working with, and not limiting it to being like, well, you're over a certain age, so we can't work with you. Because I did have coaches tell me that. The first coach that took me very seriously was a Filipino gentleman named Archie Luz, and he was like, grown women are dangerous. They just have a confidence. And like, as soon as he said
get out of the ring.
I was like, you see me.
Yes.
And I guess that's the first part of what we do at Iron Lion, is we want to see you. We want to know what your gifts are and how we can strengthen your strengths. And it's good to work on your weaknesses, but it's also good to, if you have a superpower, we want to flex that. So that's what we do first, is we see you, we listen, we try to hear what your goals are and see where we fit and how we can help. And we're fine with, if we're not a good fit, we refer out, or we refer another practitioner that adds to what we can do to help you reach your goals, because it's important.
I love that you said people don't feel seen, because I think sometimes some of the conversations I've had with other women in sport who either, come from a different background, or, some of the conversations I've had with someone who's from the LGBTQ plus community, or somebody, maybe an older athlete who's in her 50s, sometimes they don't feel seen. And, it's important that there are resources. It's important that even in marketing collateral, we and I had an earlier chat about social media, and sometimes, we'll see conferences or a campaign for runners or something, and like, it's not diverse. It's kind of a one-faceted experience, So through your gym and what you're doing, how are you trying to kind of push that conversation, or make sure that people understand that things need to be inclusive when it comes to sport and fitness and health?
Right. A big component of what Iron Lion training does is we talk about safe environment, but the reason why our environment is quote unquote safe is because I feel like it truly displays body positivity. And that word gets thrown around a lot in terms of like what we think it is. And I don't think it is like, oh, I have a little fat, so I love myself. That's not really body positivity. So I feel like what we do at Iron Lion Training through social media is we show all ages and stages working out, because you got to start where you are. It doesn't matter if you're ripped. A lot of people will tell me, oh, I got to get fit before I even,
I've heard that.
And that's not how it works, right? But that's how, health and wellness in the marketing behind it, unfortunately, is not healthy. If you Google health and wellness, the images that pop up are rich, thin, white women. So we try to show everything. We show those people, but we also show the other people that you don't normally see. So we want to show that we see you and we can help everybody. And it doesn't matter where you are now.
Or who you are.
You got to crawl before you walk. You got to walk before you run. And we can help with that.
I love the hashtag, and I want you to tell me what that is.
Okay.
I'm like, I know it's empowerment and pride in terms of the content, but tell me about the hashtag and how it came about.
So when I was seeking sponsorship for boxing, we created the Iron Lioness. So the Iron Lioness, she's really interesting and powerful to me because I haven't grown into her yet. She is like, I don't know if you ever watched He-Man, and He-Man had Cringer, and then when he turned into He-Man, Cringer turns into Battle Cat. So that's kind of my facade. The Iron Lioness is what I put on to compete.
Like evolution, like growing into something.
Exactly. Okay. But like Steph is scared all the time and terrified all the time. But like when it's time to get into the ring, I put on the Iron Lioness. And I've taught other people how to do that. So finding your power in the pride is finding...
And that's the hashtag.
Exactly. So that's like finding what your special gift is within our community and how you can amplify it and help those around you. And like our community is so interesting because we have so many educated and like gifted people that have felt overlooked or have felt uncomfortable in physical situations, whether it's gym class. Like I've heard so many horrible stories. Gym class, commercial gyms, that kind of stuff. So when we talk to people, like we ask them like what kind of shows they watch, what kind of music they listen to, and when they have their session, for sure I'm gonna play one of their favorite jams. Do you know what I mean? Because I wanna keep them, but they also do that for other people as well. So everybody in our space pays it forward. If they see somebody who comes into the gym who looks a little uncomfortable, they're gonna friend them up and be like, no, this is a place that we have
family.
Yeah, exactly. We are literally a fit fam. So like finding your power and feeling powerful in this place and not dragging your feet. And there's an old Jamaican saying, if you're walking with your shoulders back, your parents are like, walk with life.
Yeah.
Walk like you have like.
I can hear my mom saying that.
Walk like you have life. And I tell people that, and they're like, what does that mean? And it's like walk with purpose.
Yep.
You're coming in here to move your body. It's kind of a form of. It's not kind of. It is a form of worship. And I feel like we don't do that enough. We don't make people in school do that enough. Like in school, it's like you go and you do a gym class and it's like, this is what we're doing. But it's like, what if I'm not good at jumping?
Yeah.
What if I'm not good at throwing? What if I have social anxiety? And I feel like there should be different streams.
Yes. We all learn differently.
Yeah, exactly. So people can move and get the benefits of moving because there's so many. And I feel like women, and especially Black women, miss out on these. And through these, just moving, you can prevent things down the road and improve your quality of life.
So where do you find your inner strength, your power, just your positivity in life?
I'm a very tenacious person. So I'm not, when I explain my journey, it's with the understanding that I'm a stubborn person. And if I have I need this information and I have to do this to get this information, I'm going to work a certain amount to get it. And that, I think I get that from my mom. She's just a powerful person. She came to the country, sponsored her brothers and sisters to come to the country, got a house, did all the things, became a nurse. And I just saw her work ethic and her hustle. So I would say my mom is my greatest source of strength and just seeing what she did and the obstacles that generation had that we don't have.
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of resources that we have, and just kind of starting from scratch.
Right,
A
exactly.
lot of things,
and it's like I see the things that she's done, and I hope that I have a fraction of that strength in my lifetime. So that's the greatest source of my strength. I reference her a lot when I say things. Or if I struggle, it's like my mom did this with 4 kids. Like, do you know what I mean?
You gotta give yourself a pep talk. You're like, you can do this.
Yeah. And like, I wasn't an easy kid. So like, the fact that she could do that allows me to feel like I could do anything.
Is there something from your past that you've really felt like, okay, I look back, I've overcome, but I had to go through that because that's kind of made me the person that I am today? Because you also seem like someone who has a lot of resilience, and that's not something a lot of people have.
Right.
People strive to have that, but it's not always easy for some people. So is there anything that you can point to that you said, like, I overcame this, and that's kind of that's what's made the Steph of today?
Right. Well, resilience, I've always understood resilience to be a muscle. So you have to continually flex it. You have to continually put yourself in situations. And I'm the type of person that I do put myself in a lot of situations that are uncomfortable because I feel like I can learn from them. As an aside, our fire alarm's not working and we had to go up 18 flights of stairs. And when I was done, I was like, I didn't like the way that made me feel. So I'm going to do this every other day.
It's exercise, but it was uncomfortable because it was unexpected too.
Right. So, but just the fact that it was uncomfortable made me want to get even more uncomfortable with it, just so that I got better at it. And I apply that to everything that I do in terms of resilience. But I would say with boxing, I was doing really well and I shocked a lot of people. Because when I said what I wanted to do, everybody was like, okay. But I did it.
You're like, let me show you.
And then it was like, I was winning. And then I got a Golden Glove champion. Like I just kept winning.
Excelling, yeah.
And then I had a major injury. So my Achilles blew. So that was like, to kind of finally find yourself and find your way. And then like literally one of your tires goes. And like I didn't have a lot of time because I was in my early 30s. That was really, really difficult and really challenging. And what I realized at the time was I had wrapped myself up in the identity of being an athlete. So when that was kind of pulled, I had to do some really deep
like who are
digging.
you after that? Yeah.
So I had to go to therapy. I talked to a sports psychologist, but I didn't just kind of cover it up. And honestly, that's the way my family does things. So my family, I would say I'm the first generation in my family to be like mental health matters. That's how I got over
facing something and working through it.
Yes, and understanding that like this isn't the end, but you do have some work to do, and you have to develop other facets of who you are, because this one is temporarily not on the table. So that was really challenging. Going through rehab stuff when like I was doing complicated combos and moving a certain way, and I had to learn how to walk all over again. So that was really challenging. It was tough. I went through like a serious depression, medicated, but through consistently working, just like dark days, the sun eventually comes out. So I eventually started to find through mental health endeavors, maybe I'm not the only one who needs this stuff. Maybe I need to talk more about the mental health aspect of wellness, because with wellness, we only see physical and nutrition, but there's 4 pillars. There's stress management, there's sleep, but the stress management, like how do you manage it? Who do you manage that with? Like, do you have somebody to talk to? And it doesn't always have to be a doctor, but I think talking to people and, the Iron Lioness and the Find Your Power and the Pride, that never failed me. And I'm a very honest and brave person, so I was able to get the help I needed. It took the time it took, and that's like with all of my journeys. It takes the time it takes. You can't rush God. It just goes. It just happens. It just goes at the pace it goes.
And are you still affiliated with boxing in any way? Are you still connected to the boxing community?
Yes. So I still work with my coach now is Tony Wallace, and I have a young man that I'm training. So he's going to be taking fights this year, and I hope to get back to it in my 40s. And there's a plan there, because right now, if I was to get back into it, I would still be fighting girls that are girls, and I want to fight women. So at 40, that's when you're a master's and you fight women that are your age.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd be fighting other 40-year-old women, which would be fun for me. And like, those women are doing it because they love it. I assume it's not to get to the Olympics, which is a little different path.
Well, you never know, right?
Well, it could happen, maybe, but
the next Clarissa Shields.
Yeah, Clarissa Shields is
She's
something
doing
else.
great,
Yeah,
eh?
she's something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the sport. I love what you learn from the sport. I feel like every time I get in the ring, it's like overcoming so much just to go through the ropes. So I miss that. I like training, like just throwing myself into a training camp is because it's like this plus this equals this. And even if you lose, you still did the thing. So yeah, I miss it and I'm looking forward to getting back to it. But right now I'm loving powerlifting.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that, because it seems like, you always talk about pushing yourself and trying the next thing, and it seems like powerlifting for you, that was your next thing that you were like, let me try my hand at that. So how's that experience been going?
So powerlifting, my now husband introduced me to it, I would say 9 years ago. I couldn't really do it 100% because I was boxing at the time. But 5 years ago, I really kind of laid into it. And I just thought it was incredible to see women lifting these weights. And like, it's like such a small sport. It's like, why don't we see, like, how come, like this, like I had to like dig on YouTube and find women and start following them and seeing the things. It's like, she could lift what with what? And it's like, sometimes tiny women, sometimes big. And the thing about powerlifting, it's all different kinds of women, because I feel like in Western culture, we think of bodybuilding as athletic.
Yes.
But athletic is any size. And you see that a lot in powerlifting. You see like women with thick thighs wearing singlets and picking up weights. And there was something about that when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is amazing. And as I like dug into it and read into it more, powerlifting in Australia, they've done so many studies with the elderly population. It's reverse osteoporosis.
It's putting us to shame.
Yeah, well, it's just
elderly people powerlifting.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing with my life?
But it's one of those things that for women, I feel like women have been underrepresented in health and wellness. There's so much information now that's out there that will help us age in magical ways. And I say magical because I feel like prior to, I don't know, 10 years ago, it's like women reaches 35, we just kind of push them to the side. Yeah, it's like okay, it's menopause, you're dried up, go away.
Now. Yeah.
But I don't feel like it needs to be that way. I feel like just lifting weights, there's a stigma behind lifting weights. And it's like, for me, anytime there's a stigma, I'm like, let's get in, like, like
break this
why
down
is this a thing?
Yeah.
And some people are like, oh, I don't want to look like the She-Hulk, or I don't want to look like a man. And there's tons of lifters who aren't very big, but are still lifting big weights. So they're
ignorant as to like the physicality and what it actually does to your body.
But the benefits for women, there are too many benefits for us not to be lifting weights. So I started doing that, and like, I guess my personality is when I'm engaged in something and I love it, I am kind of like a fire starter. So like I was really loving it and digging into it. So other women are like, "Oh, tell me more." Yeah. And I'm also like the big sister type. So people are like, "Well, if you're doing it, I'm going to do it with you." And then I had a team, and like for 5 years straight, I've always had a team that I've brought with me, and that's the Find Your Power and the Pride thing coming to fruition, is that I've always had a team of women. We are now letting men join us.
Okay.
But that's at the approval of the women on the team. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. And like we have one national record holder.
That's amazing.
And I have a competition coming up, and it's a charity lift event at Quantum in March. And it's just been the next thing just to keep us moving, to keep our goals refreshed, and to show people that like you can, if you want it, if you want to learn, there are resources for you to learn, and there are benefits from doing this as well. You can do it in a way that's controlled, that's safe, low risk of injury, with the right supervision and the right support, which is huge.
And what message do you have for young girls who may want to follow in your footsteps, in the sense of, trying these different sports, becoming an athlete, and then maybe opening, your own business on the entrepreneurial side? Is there any message that you have for them? I won't say advice, because sometimes people are like, no, it's just the message.
Yeah, well, the message is to keep going and find somebody who's done it. So one of the things with every adventure that I've gone on in this life, I've always asked somebody who is doing it, and I would seek those people out and be like, "Can I take you to coffee?" Talk to a few people. Can I talk and hear their journeys? And everybody's journey is going to be different. It's not going to be identical to yours or your position in life, but you can learn from people's story and take those nuggets and do it your way. So maybe not follow my path, because my path was challenging and it's still challenging, but you can create your own path. But I do feel like there's almost a surrender element to the wisdom, which is out there and it's available. And I feel like when you really want to find it, you can go out and seek it. But definitely mentorship is I think a big key to that, and talking to people who've done a form of what you do so they can tell you the little things that maybe you wouldn't think of on the way. Yeah.
And what's coming up next for Iron Lion training?
Well, I have huge, like, I want this to be bigger than me, obviously, but it's still a baby. It's only 3 years old, so it requires a lot of my attention. I get up at 4, I go to bed at like 10, and like my life is that right now. But I'd like to see our facility. Right now we have a 1,500 square foot facility. I would like it to get bigger. I would like to have sponsored memberships down the road, like within a year, so people who maybe can't afford the training can get the training that they need. But I also want to myself go back to school for psychology, just so we can help our community that way, because I feel like there aren't a lot of Black therapists that are helping women, and I feel like that's a deterrent for some women. So if I can, that's been a huge, like, it's changed my life, therapy, so I want to pay that forward in my practice as well. So we do a lot of physical stuff at Iron Lion. We box, we lift weights, we throw kettlebells around, we have kid classes.
I love your videos. I was like on Facebook, I'm like,
where parents throw their babies around, and and they have a lot of they have a lot of fun. But I would like to keep branching out and offering more services, so that people can see that health is more than just lifting weights. It's really about digging, and you asked me about resilience, and I feel like physical training is a form of resilience, right? Because sometimes you don't want to do it and you get through it, and usually 9 times out of 10 when you're done your workout you feel accomplished and you feel better than when you started 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's just one of those things that you just have to suck it up and do, and if you just keep doing it, you build those patterns, you build those habits, and you carry those patterns and habits into your other areas of life. Like you carry it in the boardroom. You carry it in, I've heard my clients have been like, oh, I had this meeting and I remember this thing you said, the sassy thing, and then I said it to myself, and
they're changing their lifestyle and how they see themselves and how they go about living.
Well, reminding them how to see themselves, because everybody's powerful, but they forget sometimes. They
pull it out of them.
They get into a rut and they forget what that power is, and that's what we do. We kind of scratch it out and then remind them, hey man, you're awesome. You know what I mean? You're this thing. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm this thing. And they walk different. Like, so they walk with life.
I love that. So if anyone wanted to find out more about Iron Lion training and about you and the things that you've accomplished and your path and what you're doing now, where's the first place they should go to?
Well, we're most fun on Instagram. You can visit our website. Right now it's just a splash page, but I think our blog is pretty substantial. So in the blog, we have a Lion of the Month. So that's a member that we feature every month. There are stories from my boxing journey, but also my powerlifting journey in there. There's my origin story, so how the Iron Lioness came to be. There's a little bit more about like growing up with family that didn't really encourage that type of activity. Even stuff to like hair. Like my hair is
I love all your hairstyles.
Thank you.
I don't know if that was the blog or the Instagram page. I did see it was like a 6 collage of it.
But that's like me returning to who I am, because like I said, I was corporate for a while and it was like straight hair pasted down all the time, so much breakage. So returning back to like naturals, protective.
And your own identity of who you are. I mean, maybe you'd want braids one day, next day a different look. And that's okay. We're seeing a lot of, different companies, address that with different policies or what have you to make sure that everyone feels included. And it's good that you're like, I'm just celebrating my life and who I am and my identity and reclaiming that again and not really kind of going into a mold or somebody else's standard of what you should look like.
Right, because I did that for too long. And, I feel like, I don't want to say I wasted because you learn, but then you just leave those situations with a greater appreciation for who you are. And you don't want to dim your light after you've kind of put it in a box for a long time.
And your light is so bright. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great story and can't wait to find out and learn and hear about what more you're doing with Iron Lion training. Thank you so much, Steph.
Thanks for having me. This was dope.